The note inside the coffin.
The furnace room at Redwood Valley Crematory, tucked away on the outskirts of rural Oregon, always felt colder than it should have been. Even in summer, the air clung to the skin like damp stone. Marcus Reed had worked here for 12 years, long enough to stop counting bodies, long enough to believe nothing could still surprise him. He was wrong.
That evening, clouds pressed low against the narrow windows, muting the last traces of daylight.
Marcus pushed a stainless steel gurney down the corridor, its wheels echoing softly. On it rested a simple pine coffin, no flowers, no prayer card, no family in sight. Just paperwork clipped to the side.
Eleanor Hale.
Age 67. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. Immediate cremation requested. Marcus noticed the absence immediately. No relatives.
No waiting room whispers.
No tear-stained signatures lingering longer than necessary. The authorization forms had been signed fast, almost aggressively neat, as if whoever signed them wanted the process finished before doubt could catch up. He told himself it wasn't his business. Inside the prep room, Marcus began the routine steps. Metal handles removed. Safety checks. A last inspection for prohibited items. Normally this was done with a partner, but tonight he was alone.
The silence pressed in.
When he lifted the coffin lid, he paused. Eleanor looked wrong. Not decomposed. Not gray. Her skin held color. Her face was calm, almost restful, like someone paused mid-sleep. Marcus felt a flicker of unease he hadn't felt since his first month on the job. He adjusted his gloves, swallowed, and leaned closer. "Rest easy, ma'am," he murmured out of habit. As he checked the pockets of her dress, his fingers brushed against something folded. Paper. Thin. Hidden carefully inside the lining near her waist.
Marcus hesitated.
Notes weren't unheard of, but they were usually placed by loved ones, visible, intentional. This one felt secretive. Concealed. He unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, as if written in a rush or with fading strength. The message was short. No signature. No explanation.
Don't burn me.
Please. The room seemed to tilt. Marcus stared at the words, his heart thudding so loudly he was sure it could be heard over the hum of the building. A dozen thoughts collided in his head. A joke. A mistake. A cruel prank. Then he looked back at Eleanor. Her arm was no longer positioned the way he remembered. He was certain of it. A chill crawled up his spine as instinct screamed what logic refused to accept. Marcus reached for her wrist, telling himself he was imagining things, telling himself he had done this 1,000 times before. And then he felt it.
A faint pulse.
Steady.
Real.
Marcus stumbled back, breath caught in his throat, the note slipping from his hand and fluttering to the floor. In that moment, standing alone between steel walls and a furnace meant to erase all doubt, he realized something terrifying. Someone had tried to turn a living woman into ashes. And whoever did it was in a hurry to make sure no one ever found out. She was never supposed to wake up. Marcus Reed didn't remember dropping to his knees, but suddenly the cold concrete was beneath him and the air felt too thin to breathe. His eyes were locked on the old woman in the coffin, on the faint rise and fall of her chest that should not have been there. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. He forced himself to move. Years of training finally overpowered panic. Marcus grabbed the oxygen tank mounted on the wall, hands shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. He fitted the mask over Eleanor Hale's face, adjusting it gently, terrified that even the smallest mistake could end her life for real this time. "Stay with me," he whispered, though he didn't know if she could hear him. "Please stay." Her eyelids fluttered. That was when Marcus truly understood the weight of what had almost happened. This woman had been declared dead.
Transported.
Sealed in a coffin. Scheduled to be burned alive. Every system that was supposed to protect life had failed her. He reached for his phone to call 911. No signal. Of course there wasn't. The crematory was old, built thick and low to contain heat. Marcus cursed under his breath and ran to the hallway, checking again. Nothing. He would have to go outside. "I'll be right back," he said quickly, placing a blanket over Eleanor's shoulders. "Don't move. Don't try to move." He sprinted through the corridor and shoved open the back door, sucking in the damp evening air as his phone finally lit up with bars. His thumb hovered over the screen. Before he could dial, someone slammed against the front entrance.
The sound echoed through the building, urgent, desperate.
Marcus froze. Another knock followed, harder this time, followed by a cracked voice shouting through the door.
"Please don't tell Maitstolate." Marcus ran.
When he opened the front door, a young man nearly collapsed into him. He couldn't have been more than 19. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair soaked with sweat, his eyes wild with terror. "Did you cremate her?" The boy gasped. "Did you already do it?" Marcus gripped his shoulders. "Slow down. Who are you?"
"My name is Caleb Hale," the boy said, voice breaking. "Eleanor Hale is my mother. Please. Tell me she is still here."
Marcus's mouth went dry. "She's here," he said carefully. "And you need to listen to me very closely."
Caleb's face twisted, bracing for the worst.
"She's alive." The word seemed to knock the air out of him. "What?"
Caleb whispered. "No."
"That's not," she was pronounced. "She has a pulse," Marcus said. "Weak but real. I found a note in her clothes. One you clearly know about." Caleb's eyes dropped instantly. "You found it," he said, almost to himself. Marcus felt anger flare. "You put that note there?" "Yes," Caleb said, nodding fast. "Because I knew no one would listen to me. I knew they would rush everything."
Marcus stepped back.
Why would anyone rush the cremation of a woman who wasn't even cold yet? Caleb's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. "Because they didn't want her waking up," he said quietly. Marcus stared at him. "Who?" Caleb swallowed hard. "Her biological children.
Marlowe and Grant. My brother and sister."
Marcus felt the word twist in his chest. "They poisoned her," Caleb continued, voice shaking now. "I didn't know at first. I thought it was food poisoning. Then she went into a coma. They said the doctors gave up. They told me cremation was her wish." Marcus remembered the paperwork. The rushed signatures.
The empty waiting room.
"You didn't believe them," Marcus said. "No," Caleb said. "Because my mom hated cremation. She always said she wanted to be buried under a tree, somewhere quiet. When they insisted on burning her, I knew." He looked up, eyes red. "I didn't know how to stop it. So I did the only thing I could think of."
Marcus exhaled slowly.
The truth was settling in, heavy and sickening.
"Listen to me," Marcus said.
"I'm calling an ambulance. Right now." Caleb grabbed his wrist. "No," he said urgently. "Not yet. Please. If you call them now, they'll come too. They'll finish what they started."
Marcus hesitated.
Every rule.
Every protocol.
Every rational part of him screamed to make the call. But then he thought about Eleanor, sealed in a coffin with a note begging for mercy. "Then what do you want me to do?" Marcus asked. Caleb met his eyes, fear and determination colliding in his expression. Help me protect her, he said. Just long enough to prove the truth. The children who signed her death. They moved Eleanor only after the building fell completely silent. Marcus locked the crematory doors, flipped the sign to closed, and guided Caleb through a narrow service corridor that led to a storage room rarely used anymore. The air smelled of dust and disinfectant. Old boxes were stacked against the walls, forgotten. It was the safest place he could think of. Eleanor lay on a worn couch, wrapped in blankets, oxygen hissing softly beside her. Her breathing was still shallow, but steadier now. Marcus kept checking her pulse, afraid it might vanish the moment he stopped believing in it. Caleb sat on the floor next to her, holding her hand with both of his, as if anchoring her to the world. After nearly 20 minutes, Eleanor's fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened. Not wide. Not fully. Just enough. Caleb gasped. "Mom." Her lips moved, dry and trembling. It took several seconds before sound came out. "Caleb," she whispered. The name alone shattered him. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to her hand, choking back sobs. "You're safe," he said quickly. "I'm here. You're safe." Eleanor's eyes shifted slowly, unfocused. "Where?" Marcus stepped forward carefully. "Ma'am, you're at a crematory. But you're not in danger anymore." The word hit her like a slap. Her breathing hitched. "Crematory." Caleb squeezed her hand. "They told everyone you were gone. They were going to burn you." A tear slid from the corner of Eleanor's eye. She rasped. "I knew it." Her strength faded quickly after that. She slipped in and out of awareness, but each time she woke, she seemed more certain of one thing. She hadn't imagined the betrayal. Later, when her breathing stabilized and color returned faintly to her face, Eleanor asked Marcus to leave the room. "I need to speak to my son," she said weakly. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He closed the door, leaving it slightly ajar. Caleb leaned closer. "You were right," Eleanor whispered. "About everything." Caleb swallowed hard. "Tell me what you remember." Her gaze drifted to the ceiling as if replaying a nightmare she had begged to forget. "They invited me to dinner," she said. "Marlowe cooked. Grant poured the wine. They were kind. Kinder than they'd been in years." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I thought maybe," Eleanor continued, "maybe they finally wanted to be family again." Her hand trembled in his. "I remember the taste," she said. "Metallis. Bitter." Then my chest burned. I couldn't move. I heard them arguing. Not panicking. Calculating. Caleb felt sick. "They thought I was gone already," Eleanor whispered. "Grant said we couldn't wait. Marlowe said cremation was safer. Faster." She turned her eyes to Caleb, pain sharper now than fear. "They signed the papers themselves." Caleb closed his eyes. "I tried to stop them," he said. "They said I was nothing. That I wasn't blood." Eleanor's fingers tightened around his. "You are my son," she said firmly. "You were the only one who loved me when I had nothing left to give." Tears streamed down Caleb's face. Outside the room, Marcus leaned against the wall, listening despite himself. His stomach twisted with rage. Later, Eleanor insisted Marcus come in. "You saved my life," she said. "But if you let them know I survived, they'll try again." Marcus met her gaze. "Then we don't let them know." Silence stretched. "What do you want to do?" he asked. Eleanor's expression changed. Not weak. Not afraid. Cold. Focused. "I want proof," she said. "Not accusations. Not stories. I want their own words." Caleb looked up. You mean record them? She nodded slowly. They believe I'm Ash, Eleanor said. They'll be careless.
Cruel.
Honest.
Marcus felt a chill.
And when we have it? He asked. Eleanor closed her eyes briefly. Then, she said, my children will face the truth they tried to erase. In that moment, Marcus understood something deeply unsettling. This woman hadn't survived by accident. She survived because she wasn't finished yet.
A house full of ghosts.
Eleanor Hale did not return to a hospital. That decision alone went against every instinct Marcus had, every rule he had ever followed. But Eleanor was lucid now. Weak, yes, but sharp. Her eyes carried something that told Marcus this wasn't denial or shock speaking. This was calculation. They poisoned me once, she said quietly, while sitting wrapped in blankets in the back room of the crematory. If I show up alive in a hospital, they'll find a way to finish it. Caleb wanted to argue. He wanted doctors, police, sirens, anything official. But deep down, he knew his mother was right. Marlowe and Grant had already crossed a line most people never even imagined. People like that didn't panic when plans failed. They adapted. So they disappeared Eleanor. That same night, Marcus drove them out of town in his old pickup, taking back roads through forests and empty stretches of highway. Eleanor lay hidden beneath blankets in the back seat, oxygen tank secured between her feet. Caleb sat beside her, watching every breath like it might be the last. They stopped at a small rental house Marcus owned outside Eugene, a place he used for storage and fishing trips.
No neighbors close enough to notice lights.
No cameras. No questions. For 3 days, Eleanor rested. And for 3 days, the world believed she was dead. Marlowe and Grant didn't waste time. Caleb saw it on social media first. A carefully worded post. A photo of an urn.
Black and white filter.
Captions full of hollow grief. Beloved mother laid to rest. Honoring her wishes. Caleb's hands shook as he showed it to Eleanor. She stared at the screen without blinking. They didn't even wait, she said. On the 4th day, Marcus came back with equipment. Small cameras.
Motion sensors. Audio recorders. Nothing flashy.
The kind used by insurance investigators and private contractors. Marcus had a friend who owed him a favor, and he didn't ask questions. They laid everything out on the kitchen table. Caleb looked overwhelmed.
Is this even legal?
Eleanor answered calmly.
It is my house.
My property.
My life.
Marcus nodded.
As long as we don't provoke them. We let them talk.
That night, Marcus returned to Eleanor's house in Santa Rosa, California, posing as a pest control contractor hired to prepare the property for sale. The siblings were too busy arguing over furniture and bank accounts to notice much else. Marcus worked quietly.
A camera behind the bookshelf in the living room. One inside the kitchen vent.
Another hidden near the home office where Eleanor kept her financial records. He left without suspicion. The waiting was the hardest part. From the rental house, they watched live feeds on a laptop. At first, nothing but silence and movement. Marlowe pacing. Grant pouring drinks. Papers spread across the dining table like vultures' feathers. Then, slowly, the masks came off. She always said she didn't want to be burned, Marlowe scoffed one evening, scrolling through her phone.
Guess it doesn't matter now. Grant laughed.
Safer this way. No body. No autopsy. Caleb flinched. Eleanor didn't. Another night, Grant opened a bottle of champagne. To freedom, he said. And to finally being rid of her. Marlowe raised her glass. You know what the best part is?
She trusted us. Right until the end.
Eleanor closed her eyes.
The words cut deeper than the poison ever had.
Days passed.
The confessions grew bolder.
Careless. They argued about money. About who deserved more. About how Caleb should be handled if he caused problems. If that kid opens his mouth, Grant said once, we'll say he's unstable. He's not even blood. That was when Eleanor finally spoke.
Enough, she said softly.
Caleb turned to her. We have everything. She nodded. Then it's time.
Marcus shut the laptop.
The house they had filled with lies was about to hear the truth walk back through the door.
The woman who walked back in.
The night of the announcement gala arrived exactly 1 week later. Marlowe and Grant had chosen excess over subtlety. A rented event hall in downtown Santa Rosa, glass walls, white lights, catered food, champagne flowing like victory itself. Invitations were sent to executives, lawyers, distant relatives, and longtime employees of Eleanor Hale's company. The headline was clear without being spoken out loud.
A new era begins.
Caleb stood across the street from the venue, adjusting the collar of his dark suit. He barely recognized himself in the reflection of the glass.
The boy who once slept under bridges felt impossibly far away.
Tonight, he wasn't here as a child begging for mercy. He was here as proof. Marcus stood beside him, calm but alert. Inside his jacket pocket was a flash drive, duplicated 3 times. Insurance. Years of cremating the dead had taught him one thing: certainty mattered. You ready? Marcus asked. Caleb nodded, though his chest felt tight.
Inside the hall, Marlowe stepped onto the stage first.
She wore black, not for mourning, but for authority. Her smile was practiced, sharp, perfectly hollow. My mother built something incredible, she said into the microphone. And while her passing was tragic, Grant and I are honored to carry her legacy forward. Polite applause followed. Grant joined her, taking the mic with confidence that bordered on arrogance.
We promise transparency.
Strength. A company run by family, for family.
Caleb exhaled slowly.
Now, Grant continued, as majority heirs and legal successors. The doors opened. Every head turned. At first, people noticed only Caleb. The murmurs started immediately. Some recognized him. Others whispered questions.
Grant's face twisted with irritation.
Security, he snapped, remove him. Caleb took 1 step forward. You don't own anything, he said clearly, his voice cutting through the room.
Laughter rippled, nervous and confused.
Grant scoffed.
You embarrassing yourself. The lights dimmed. The screen behind the stage flickered to life.
A video began to play. At first, the room was silent. Then came Grant's voice, unmistakable. If I'd known it would be that easy, I'd have done it years ago. Marlowe's laugh followed. No autopsy.
Cremation solves everything.
Gasps exploded across the hall. Grant turned, panic flooding his face. Turn it off, he shouted. The footage kept going. Caleb watched the color drain from their faces as their own words sealed their fate.
Confessions.
Mockery.
Celebration.
Then, a voice spoke from the entrance.
Turn it up. The room froze. Eleanor Hale stepped forward. Alive.
Walking. Watching her children with eyes that held no confusion, no Ferrenly clarity. Several guests screamed. Others stood in shock, mouths open, unable to process what they were seeing.
Marlowe staggered back.
That's not possible. Eleanor climbed the stage slowly, deliberately. You burned an empty coffin, she said.
And buried your conscience with it.
Grant dropped to his knees. Police officers moved in from both sides of the hall.
Someone had already called them.
Or maybe they'd been waiting. Eleanor looked down at her children. I loved you, she said. But you chose greed over humanity.
Handcuffs clicked shut.
As they were dragged away, Grant screamed Caleb's name, blaming him, cursing him. Caleb didn't respond. He simply stood beside Eleanor. For the first time in his life, he wasn't invisible. And for the first time in theirs, the truth had nowhere left to hide.
Buried by truth, not fire.
The courtroom was quieter than Caleb expected. No shouting. No drama like in the movies.
Just the low hum of fluorescent lights and the slow, grinding sound of consequences settling into place.
Marlowe Hale and Grant Hale sat at the defense table in identical suits, their confidence long gone, replaced by hollow stares and clenched jaws. The evidence was overwhelming.
Video confessions. Financial records.
Medical reports confirming attempted poisoning. Testimony from Marcus Reed describing the rushed cremation orders and the handwritten note that had saved Eleanor's life. When Eleanor took the stand, the room leaned forward. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply told the truth. I trusted my children, she said calmly. And they decided my life was an obstacle. The verdict came faster than anyone expected.
Guilty on all counts.
As the judge read the sentences, Marlowe collapsed into tears. Grant stared straight ahead, unmoving, as if denial were the last thing he still owned. They were led away in silence. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, but Eleanor raised a hand and shook her head. She had said enough.
Months passed.
The company was placed under temporary trusteeship until Eleanor fully recovered. True to her word, she transferred control to Caleb once he turned 18, not out of revenge but trust. Under his leadership, the business changed.
Employee profit sharing. Community programs. Transparency.
The kind of company Eleanor had always wanted but never had the strength to demand alone. Marcus returned to his quiet life in Oregon, though Eleanor never forgot him. Every year, a letter arrived. Every year, it ended the same way. You listened when others didn't. Years later, Eleanor stood beneath a wide oak tree at the edge of her property.
Sunlight filtered through the leaves.
The ground was soft. Peaceful. This is where, she said softly. When the time finally came, there was no rush.
No secrecy. No fire.
Caleb buried her there, just as she had asked all those years ago, his children standing beside him. As he placed his hand on the earth, he understood something Eleanor had always known.
Blood can betray.
But love, freely given, never does.